roll call. Pete, by speakerphone? You here? Okay, Bonnie? Here. Jim?
Here.
And Dan is not here. All right, we have a quorum, so we will check the door for clients. Okay, thanks, Dan. So the first item on the agenda is the discussion concerning the ongoing exploration of fire and EMS services from neighboring departments, including but not limited to Sullivan, Western Lakes, Ryan Brothers Ambulance, Whitewater Fire Department, Kettle Moraine Fire District, LaGrange Lauderdale Fire and Rescue Department, and Rome Fire Department. So, I have a few notes here. I have spoken with Lauderdale LaGrange some time back, and at that time they were overwhelmed themselves, so they're not interested in serving the town of Palmyra. I've spoken with Sullivan, and Sullivan receives their service, their fire service from Rome, and they receive their ambulance service from Western Lakes. The north part of Sullivan is served by the Village of Sullivan Fire Department. So at any rate, that took me to Rome, which is adjacent to us on the north and the west side, since they serve part of Hebron. They would be very eager to provide fire service. We would need to contact Western Lakes for ambulance service, because they separate those out. So I have contacted Western Lakes. They have an interest, but we haven't gotten any farther than that. Let's see. And as Whitewater Fire Department definitely has an interest. Right now they're working on combining with the City of Whitewater. I didn't realize they were two separate entities, but they are. But they too have an interest. And 2 weeks ago, Jim and I went and met with the Kettle Moraine Fire District Board, and they decided that we should continue talking, and that's where we are with them. They certainly are interested in serving the town of Palmyra with both fire and EMS. So, Jim, what do you have to add to that?
I met last week with the captain of the Kettle Moraine Fire Department, and we went over different properties which could be utilized as a potential fire department.
Like a substation, you mean?
Substation that they would staff. Going over, we need to also, as far as the properties, go over what the cost would be as far as remodeling and or construction, which we're in the process of doing now. I'm supposed to be meeting with an individual who has experience in fire department construction.
So he can tell you what would be necessary if we were to do anything like that.
But at this point in time, it's very preliminary.
Yeah. Okay. And one thing I should mention is that I think whatever we do, as a committee, I would like to think that we can agree that we would need to have service near the center of the town. We can't rely on Western Lakes sending an ambulance down here from Sullivan or anything like that. So
the individual from Kettle Moraine indicated that he would like to have an ambulance here, a tanker here, and one other piece of equipment in the future.
In the future, yeah. And I can say that the Bureau of Aeronautics has given us tentative approval to put an ambulance in the building next door here, if we needed to do that. So as far as additional equipment, we hadn't discussed that with them. It was a matter of having an ambulance close by. Ryan Brothers indicated that were we to contract with them, they provide the equipment and they provide the housing for an ambulance. What they do is just rent a house with an attached garage. And they understand it would have to be near the center of the town for it to be suitable for us. So I guess that's where we are with investigating services. Might be interesting to note that in the last year, During all of 2021, we didn't have a structure fire in the town. We utilized 28% of the village's total calls, and that has been the same percentage so far, well, from the 1st of January to the 16th of February of this year. So we're below the 30% call volume for the village's fire and EMS department. And in 2020, I think we had one, well, I know we had one structure fire, and that was the chicken farm. Obviously, they came all the way from Illinois for that. So for that particular fire, the response time, and I think James would agree with us on this, is kind of irrelevant. All they did was contain it, keep it from spreading, and that was just such a huge fire anyway. I think it was the largest one in the state that year. So, Pete, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that was totally unusual. So the 21% is something that the village knows but won't recognize apparently, right?
28%. 28%.
Sorry.
Yeah, they certainly recognize that. They have the same same figures we have. Okay. I guess to go on just a little bit, I've spoken with James several times recently. I think everybody knows we work together on my testimony at the House Local Affairs Committee concerning increasing the amount of Medicaid that we take to cover ambulance transport. And that actually passed the Senate yesterday unanimously. So it will get signed into law the 14th of April. And that should help all the departments across the state with Medicaid calls for transport.
Is there a particular number of what the increase would be on a percentage basis, or that's not given as yet?
Yeah, there is, and I didn't bring it with me. I printed it off, I thought. But it takes it up to the point where it doesn't pay for all of it, but it's darn close. Okay. Before it was a percentage of the Medicaid or Medicare payment, and I think what they did was take the additional Medicaid money that's available to try to bring it up to the Medicare level. So anyway, it certainly helped. It's not the fix-all.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. So it should help everybody. Anyway, and the other thing that everybody that I've talked to has said that the huge issue is staffing. I don't care whether it's the village, whether it's other departments, or who it is, it's statewide. And I think the time has come for all of us to think outside the box a little bit, plus hammer the legislature to provide more funding for this kind of stuff, because you know, we have levy limits. We can only spend so much. If we go above our what we're allowed, then we don't get funds from the state. And the time has come to really we could staff if we could pay, but nobody is going to take $8 an hour, which is what the village offers, to sit in the fire station if they're just paid on call. It's just not feasible. So we need.
Kettle Moraine, just to get some knowledge, Kettle Moraine does have a very active recruitment program.
Good.
Where they bring in non-experienced people at roughly $15 an hour, bring every school that they go to and every basically promotion that they get a $1 an hour raise, and they also get a bonus incentive for going to schools to get to the higher amount. So it sounded like a very good program that they put together. They also indicated that McQuantico and other surrounding area fire departments copy their program on recruitment. So I think that's very, very good.
Yeah, I do too. Excellent. Okay. Okay, I guess
Well, I think what you said on this Wisconsin Policy Forum that they published in October last year, it confirms what you said, that EMS call volumes and staffing challenges are causing many to rethink this approach. And they say that consolidation is probably one of the better ways to go.
Right, right. It's probably the only feasible way to go. The little standalone departments, just, it's the funding issue. I don't think any of us are suggesting that James hasn't done an excellent job in the village, but funding is going to be the problem going forward. It's for them as well as anybody else. Very small. Our call volume for EMS is less than 1 week. It's about 4.1 a month, so if you figure there's, what, 4 1/3 weeks to a month.
That's for EMS.
EMS,
And for fire, it's less than a half.
right, and the fire calls last year were EMS assists. And what they are is somebody calls in a car wreck and the fire engine and the ambulance both run.
The other note on that is roughly 75% of all calls are during the daytime, 8 to 5, and during the weekdays.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes,
I would have thought, just thinking about it, it would have been night and weekends, but it's not.
that's not.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess at this point, we will tell the board Monday night where we are and see if they want us to continue investigating, or what they want us to do at this point.
I just want to make sure they realize what unjust and amount of work that you and Jim have put in to following up on these things, because, you know, I think it's critical for the town that we come up with a solution that gives the town some assurance that we're going to have coverage, because we never know what the village is going to do. So I congratulate you for all the time you spent on this.
Yes.
Thanks, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's, it's necessary. That's what we're charged with. Okay. Okay, anything else about what we're doing at this point, or shall we move on? Okay?
Just clarifying, the very first one you said was overwhelmed. Which department was that?
Range.
The Grange, Lauderdale Grange, yeah, yeah. And they are an all-volunteer department, a huge department. They have a tremendous number of people, but they've also got a huge population down there, a lot of people.
Well, they serve Lauderdale Lake, don't they?
Yeah, right, yeah. And one of the things, and this is just an aside, but from going to the hearing at the Capitol, so many of the departments really struggle in these areas like the Dells with out-of-state people and trying to collect from them if they have an emergency call. You know, they're gone, and it's pretty hard to run them down and collect if their insurance doesn't cover it or something. So that can be a real problem. And that's a problem that the village has a lot of uncollectibles, but I don't think
I
it's...
don't know whether you know, a lot of them are owners of properties. I don't know whether there's a way to
There-
do on that.
There is if they own property in the state, but what they do is go after any tax rebate they would have. And I think, I don't know how the village handles it. They use a third party, but I know in 2021, they had $79,000 in uncollectibles, which very well could have been simply the difference between what Medicaid was paying and what their cost was. So James was gonna get me those figures, and I haven't gotten them yet.
Oh, we lost him.
Dial it back.
Yeah.
Hit your ring.
He's calling you.
Are you back?
Perfectly quiet, but
Yeah, all of a sudden we got a busy signal.
I thought maybe it was something I was doing.
No, I don't think so. Okay, no, anyway, the uncollectibles are a problem for the emergency service. So hopefully if they're mostly Medicaid calls, that will straighten out.
That's a big help.
yeah, anyway. That's
Right
fine.
here,
Give us,
no, you're probably running a bus.
yeah,
So now Dan's here.
okay, okay. Bonnie's taking minutes, so
Dan
she'll-
just showed up, Pete.
Dan's here late, but he's here. That's all that matters, okay. And, okay, so if we're gonna move on to item 2, I was asked in a email and phone conversation by James Small if the committee would be interested in recommending to the board that we try to mediate, have a mediator come in between the village and the town. And so that brought about a little bit of history, and part of this is for Dan, and part of it's just to, so we remember where we were. This all started, the old contract, the 2012 agreement, expired at the end of 2021. And it had an automatic renewal provision in it, that if neither party gave the other one 365 days notice of termination, it would automatically renew. It did automatically renew because the village did not give the town notice, nor did the town give the village notice. Back in late September, I believe, the village president and someone, I still don't know who was with her, dropped off something, a sort of contract at my house, which I assumed, and if you guys remember, I brought it to the committee, was an attempt to begin negotiations.
Yes.
So that's, we met, we talked about it, we sent them an offer. We did some changes in the wording in the contract and sent it back to them. And assuming that we would get an answer and say, okay, we don't like this, this, or this, but let's talk about this, this, and this. They invited me to come to a meeting, it was closed session meeting of the town board, and I went, and at that meeting, Nick Triola told me that the contract they had dropped off was a contract, and it was a take it or leave it contract, and they were not going to negotiate any of it. I questioned him about it and said, we're not gonna sit down and talk. He said, nope. And I said, you realize that the old one will renew at the 2021 price? And he said, yes, I know that. So I said, all right, I'll take it back to the committee, your message. So that's what I did. We met again and thought, come on, nobody refuses to negotiate, you remember? So we sent them another offer, we raised the offer to about 33%, maybe 34% of their budget. And we never got an answer. And with that letter, I said, could we put, we would like to sit down and talk and see if we could arrive at a decision that was mutually agreeable. But they never responded to that. And then in December, I think 22nd, we got a letter from the village board, or from Kathy, demanding that we sign the contract, or they were gonna terminate service. And then it kind of went downhill from there. We got another letter at the end of the year saying, and there was no contract attached. They never gave the town a contract, only the one they dropped off at my house. And then they gave us notice of termination of service, and with her last letter, and stated that the price was going to rise and to $219,269 from the $108,000 figure, whatever it was. So anyway, that was not, and that was January 6th, she sent us that. That was not a notice of price increase as the contract required. They would have had to have given us that by the 1st of October. So anyway, we are where we are today, and now the question is, are we ready to go mediate with the village? Do we want to continue doing what we're doing as far as investigating other services? What do we want to recommend the town board do? So, Pete, what's your feeling?
Yeah, well, I thought about that, and until Nick Triola and his henchmen tell us they want to negotiate, mediation is the compromise, there's no reason to even sit down and discuss anything.
Anybody else want to say something? Jim?
Unless they're willing to negotiate, I don't see that we should mitigate at all.
Well, you know, I had talked to Tom Ball about, you know, why can't we sit down and talk about this? And he referred me to Nick Triola. So he had Nick call me the next day after their village board meeting. And I had a nice discussion with Nick, and Nick thought, yeah, that would be okay. He said maybe 2 other people, and he was thinking of people who could meet with us. And I said, well, you have to be careful who you consider. You don't want to have a quorum if they're all village board, you know, members. So he thought maybe James Small or even Lori Miller, because she helped figure out the budget, and she'd know why they came up with what figures they came up with. And so we ended it. He said, I said, well, you probably have to check with your village attorney, see if that's okay. And he said yes, and he says, I'll get back to you. Never heard anything since. So we've made attempts, and somewhere along the line, somebody's telling them, you know, no, don't discuss it with them anymore.
It's amazing to me that they're trying to raise the rate to the extent that they are, going from $108,000 a year that was in 2021 to $218,000 for the future, with escalations for every year thereafter. That's an excess of 100% increase.
Well, and it's 50% of their projected budget is what it was. Yeah.
And we're only doing 28% of the cost.
Their services, you know.
Right. Well, so I guess what we need to do is decide if we want to contact them at this point, or do we want to just keep investigating and save this for maybe a little later?
Well, I think we should send them a letter indicating to them that we've considered the mitigation,
Okay.
but until they're willing to negotiate, at this particular point in time, we're not willing.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, until they, Jim, I think that's right on. I think until they modify their tinker or legal policy, I would throw that in the letter, because that's clearly what they told all of us.
Right. Pitch me that pen and I'll make some notes so I can write something.
Oh, sure.
But Al should write that way.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll have Al write, let me word this out and then we'll need a motion.
It'd be nice to have that letter where it could be presented to them prior to their next committee meeting.
Their village board meeting, they don't have a committee.
Right.
They do have a committee, but I don't think the committee's involved with this at all.
Okay.
They have a commission, and they have a committee, and the commission really hires and fires.
It's only fair for the village to understand where we're coming from.
Right, I think so too. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna have Al write a letter to the village, reword what you said there to me, Pete.
Yeah, no, I would say that, you know, we've always been willing to discuss the contract, but the village has always taken a position that it's taken or leave it.
Okay,
There's no reason to mediate when one side says take it or leave it. Simple.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, so unless they establish a policy willing to
Yeah, I would just say unless they change their take it or leave it policy,
okay,
you can shortcut it.
yeah, yeah,
Unless they change their take it or leave it policy, there's no reason to mediate, because mediation is supposed to reach a compromise between the parties.
yeah, okay, okay. I'll get Al to draft a letter then, so is that the motion, to have Al write the letter to the village?
I make a motion, we have Attorney Al write a letter to the village
Okay,
I'll second it.
for what we just discussed.
okay,
Second.
okay. Okay. And meanwhile, okay, so, and meanwhile, I think, this isn't part of the motion, but meanwhile, I think we should continue our investigations of other options. Is that reasonable to
Yes.
everybody here?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. I don't think we need a motion for that, we're already doing it. Okay. Anything else anybody has?
You gonna vote on that motion?
You get,
We did, oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Donna. Yeah,
No, I was gonna tell you that we need to make a
yeah, okay. We have a motion and a second. Do I have a vote?
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
unanimous.
Okay.
Is there any input from me? Okay.
No, this, we can't do that. We didn't have public comment and we can't have it. So, okay, I guess,
Motion to adjourn?
yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, motion second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, meeting adjourned.
Motion carried.
Thank you.